Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into a concept that gets talked about a lot, but maybe isn't always truly understood: pride.
Hmm.
It's often called the gateway sin, like a foundational issue where lots of other problems can start.
Right.
So, our mission for this deep dive is really to pull out the most important bits from the materials you've shared with us. We want to look at how it starts, often sneakily,
Yeah, it's subtle.
its surprising consequences, and, well, what it actually looks like in our lives today. It's kind of wild how something I can feel like confidence.
Healthy confidence, even.
Exactly, how that can actually be pretty destructive. So, yeah, we're going to unpack that.
It really is a deep topic. And what's so interesting in these texts is just how subtle pride often is. It develops so gradually from things that seem, well, pretty small.
Right.
We'll try to connect that ancient wisdom we find here
Yeah.
to how it actually impacts, your daily life.
Okay, so let's start right there. What exactly is pride based on the insights we've pulled together?
Well, the materials consistently frame it as this sort of inflated sense of your own worth, or maybe your achievements, your position.
Inflated, so not reality based.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a distortion, really.
Right.
It warps how you see yourself compared to others, and in the context of these spiritual writings, compared to God.
Ah, okay.
And that's why it gets labeled that gateway thing, you see, because it leads you to overestimate yourself.
And underestimate others.
Precisely. Or
Okay.
dismiss them. It becomes this root, this starting point for a lot of other struggles. One source even calls it like excessive self-love,
Oh.
or this core belief that you're just fundamentally superior to other people, which, tends to show up as arrogance.
That idea of distortion is really powerful, though.
It is, and it brings up a big question, doesn't it? If pride messes with our perception,
Yeah.
how can we even spot it in ourselves if we're kind of caught up in it? It's usually not as obvious as we'd like to think.
That's such a good point. Because what really jumped out at me from these sources was how quietly it often starts.
Hmm.
Like you said, it doesn't usually show up as, full-blown arrogance right away. It creeps in, develops gradually, often totally unnoticed.
Yeah.
So what are some of those little things, those small actions or even inactions that sort of pave the way, according to this research?
You're right. It's not always the big stuff. The material points to subtle actions, like maybe subtle boasting, that little thought, oh, I could have done that better, even if it might be technically true.
Okay.
Or maybe name dropping to try and boost your social standing.
Oh, yeah, we've all seen that.
Right. Or constantly highlighting your own successes in conversations,
Yeah.
just trying to pull the focus onto yourself.
What about social media? That seems like a minefield for this.
Huge. Using it mainly for validation, for comparison,
Hmm.
you know, chasing likes instead of actual connection or maybe inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's dismissing what other people contribute,
Yeah.
or just constantly needing that external good job.
And it's not just the things we do. You mentioned inactions, too. What about what we don't do? That seems just as important.
Absolutely. That's a key insight here. Things like not giving credit where it's actually due,
Okay.
or refusing feedback because you immediately get defensive,
Yeah.
avoiding apologies even when, deep down you were wrong.
That's a hard one for a lot of people.
It is. And another one, maybe more internal, is ignoring spiritual guidance.
Hmm.
Prayer, reflection, whatever that looks like for you.
Mm.
Just thinking, nah, I've got this. I can handle it myself.
Yeah.
Or just failing to acknowledge when someone helped you out.
Wow.
And these little things, these omissions and commissions, they add up over time, right? They can harden into what the texts call habitual pride, or maybe unknowing pride.
Unknowing pride.
Yeah, where you might not even realize it's happening. It could look like assuming you're morally or intellectually superior to others,
Mm-hmm.
or treating people with this subtle condescension, maybe especially folks in service roles.
I see.
It also shows up when someone kind of disregards spiritual practices, believing their own effort is enough, or, just habitually ignoring constructive criticism because, well, your perspective just feels inherently right.
It's those subtle shifts, isn't it?
They're often the most dangerous, yeah. It makes you wonder, looking at these everyday habits, how did, ancient wisdom handle this same problem?
Right. What do these foundational texts actually say about pride and its consequences?
Well, if we look at the bigger picture from these sources, the wisdom is pretty clear. Pride has always been seen as a dangerous path.
Okay.
You've got Proverbs 16:18, which is quite stark. Pride goes before destruction. A haughty spirit before a fall.
Classic.
Yeah. Or James 4.6, another powerful one. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble.
Opposes the proud. That's strong language.
It is. And then 1 Peter 5 advises us to clothe yourselves with humility, that he may lift you up in due time. These aren't just old sayings. You see them play out, like in the story of King Nebuchadnezzar from Daniel 4.
Ah, right, Nebuchadnezzar. That's a really vivid example from the sources. What's the takeaway from his story?
Well, the narrative describes him getting puffed up with pride over Babylon, his great city, basically claiming he built it all by himself through his own power.
Okay, look what I did.
Exactly. And the consequence, according to the text, was pretty dramatic. He was humbled, driven out to live like an animal, until he finally acknowledged a higher power, God's sovereignty.
Wow.
Only then, the story goes, was his sanity and his kingdom restored.
Yeah.
So it's this powerful illustration that pride, ultimately, it pushes people away. It fosters isolation.
Yeah.
And it kind of sets you up for failure. It cuts you off from grace, from connection.
So if pride has this long, destructive history, what does that mean for us, like right now? What are the real world consequences, both inside ourselves and, out in the world?
Good question. Internally, the research really points to self-deception as a major outcome. If you always think you're right,
You make bad decisions.
exactly, leads to poor choices.
Right.
And pride fosters emotional isolation, too. It's really hard to accept love or even constructive criticism when you're stuck in that I don't need anyone mode.
Mm-hmm.
And spiritually, if pride resists depending on God, it cuts off that intimacy.
Right.
It can lead to what people call spiritual dryness, that feeling of being disconnected.
Makes sense. And externally, it sounds like it causes just as much trouble out there.
Oh, absolutely. The texts show pride just wrecks trust and teamwork. It leads to broken relationships, personal, professional, you name it.
Yeah.
Arrogance often sets people up for a fall, sometimes quite publicly. Public disgrace isn't uncommon.
Right.
And if you're unwilling to learn from others because you think you know best, that leads to stagnation. You just stop growing.
It really blinds you to your own flaws, doesn't it?
Completely. Halts personal growth in its tracks.
And this isn't just theoretical or ancient history, is it? The sources give some real current examples. Where are we seeing this play out today?
Oh, it's everywhere, isn't it? Think about the workplace. You might have a manager who just refuses to listen to their team.
Convinced they know best.
Totally. And it leads to high turnover, projects failing. There was that striking example in the material about a tech entrepreneur
I remember that one.
driven by pride, ignored crucial input from the team, thought only their vision mattered. And guess what? The startup failed. Poor collaboration. It's like a modern Nebuchadnezzar story, in a way.
Wow, yeah.
Or in a church context, maybe a leader becomes rigid, insisting only their interpretation is right, and it ends up dividing the whole community.
That happens.
And social media, we touched on it. Influencers measuring their whole worth by likes and comments.
The comparison trap.
Constantly comparing, developing this subtle, sometimes not so subtle, superiority complex.
It seems particularly tough for young people navigating that space. The sources really highlighted that, didn't they?
He did. And what's really interesting is how all these different situations, they all circle back to that core definition of pride and its destructive pattern.
Right.
For young people on social media, the platform itself can almost amplify pride without them even realizing it. The curated images, the likes, the follower counts.
It's all metrics.
Exactly. So a teen might post something that looks spiritual, like a Bible verse, but secretly, they're way more focused on checking the view count than, say, actually praying or reflecting. The platform shifts from being about genuine expression or ministry to being a stage for performance.
Requirements, yeah.
And that distortion, it chips away at authenticity. It turns potential spiritual influence into just building a personal brand. And over time, that can really isolate them from real accountability, from real spiritual growth.
Pride essentially kind of mocks real success by pushing hubris instead of humility.
And even in our closest relationships, like families.
Absolute. Think of a spouse who just never admits they're wrong, never apologizes.
Yeah.
Slowly, steadily, it just erodes trust, kills intimacy, leaves resentment behind. Okay, so it's clear pride is damaging. But here's the tricky part the sources raise. Isn't some pride, okay, maybe even healthy? We talk about taking pride in your work. How do we tell the difference?
That is such a crucial distinction. And yes, the sources acknowledge that. There is a healthy pride, like a justifiable satisfaction in doing good work or maybe affirming your identity, your worth as, say, made in God's image.
Okay.
That's totally different from what the text calls sinful pride.
Yeah.
That's the self-centered, arrogant kind that dismisses God and dismisses others.
So how do we know? How do we know which side of the line we're on, or if we're leaning towards the unhealthy kind?
Yeah, that's the practical question for all of us, isn't it? The sources offer some really good self-assessment questions we can ask ourselves. It's like, do you really struggle to admit when you're wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Do you often interrupt people or find yourself dominating conversations?
Okay.
How do you react to correction or advice? Do you immediately get defensive or resent it?
That's a telling one.
And maybe the subtlest one. Do you secretly compare yourself to others? Always trying to measure up or come out looking superior?
Yeah, those are definitely questions worth reflecting on. So, if pride is so bad and it's so sneaky, how do we even begin to fight back? The sources don't just leave us with the problem, right? They offer solutions.
They do, thankfully. They lay out several really practical strategies for moving towards humility. A big one is practicing gratitude, like consciously, daily, acknowledging the good things, acknowledging where others helped,
Okay, gratitude. What else?
actively acknowledging your need for God and for other people, really leaning into interdependence instead of just trying to be totally self-sufficient.
Right, letting go of, I got this.
Exactly. Also, serving others without needing applause or recognition, shifting the focus off yourself.
That's countercultural.
It really is.
Yeah.
And crucially, inviting honest accountability into your life, having people who can speak truth to you even when it's hard to hear. And finally, spending time with Scripture about humility, like Philippians 2, for instance, letting those ideas reshape your thinking.
And what about people who are really struggling with this? Is there hope? Can God still work with them?
Oh, absolutely. That's a key point, too. Think about biblical figures. Moses, Peter, Paul. They all had moments of serious pride,
That's true.
but God met them there, transformed them through humility, through correction, through surrender. It's definitely a journey, not like a one-time fix.
So wrapping this up a bit,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway? What's the core message we should leave with from this deep dive?
I think the central idea is that real greatness, genuine strength, it lies in humility, not in puffing ourselves up.
Okay.
When we try to elevate ourselves, we just end up pushing God and other people away. We create distance.
Right.
But when we choose humility, when we humble ourselves, we actually make space. Space for grace, for personal growth, and for real deep connection.
So pride is like fake strength.
Exactly. It looks like confidence, maybe even power. But these texts suggest it's often just masking insecurity underneath. Fear of not being enough.
Hmm.
God calls us to let go of pride, not to put us down, but because He values truth, honesty, and that deep trust in Him. It's about building our lives on something solid.
It's almost like vulnerability is the real strength then.
In a way, yes. It's a total reversal of how the world often sees it.
That really does challenge a lot of common ideas about strength.
It does. Pride is so subtle, but it can be so destructive, can't it? Often dressed up as ambition or charm or just confidence.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it steals what we need most,
Yeah.
that connection with God and with each other. The good news from these texts is that God's opposition to the proud isn't about crushing them. It's a callback
A callback to...
to truth, to freedom. So, maybe a thought to carry with you is this. Where are you anchoring your identity? Is it in something solid, or is it tied up in external validation?
That's a big question.
Especially for young people on social media. The wisdom here seems to be anchor your identity in something deeper, like Christ maybe, not just in content or likes. Use those platforms to point beyond yourself, not just build your own brand.
Right.
So maybe ask yourself, where in my life am I constantly seeking validation from others or trying to control everything instead of maybe trusting God or relying on my community?
Wow. That was a really powerful deep dive. Unpacking pride, how sneaky it is, but also seeing those paths towards humility. Thanks for bringing all these sources together for us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Just remember those words from James 4:10. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a practical step for you listening this week. Try to find someone who helped you succeed and thank them publicly. Make a point of it. Resist that urge to promote yourself and instead deliberately shine a light on someone else.
Great challenge. Well, until next time, keep digging, keep learning, and keep asking those deep questions.